Well, Lisa, President Trump visited a second church today in Washington while anger still swirls over his visit to another church and the tactics that were used to clear the crowd so that the president could get there. WBZ's John Keller has a closer look.
Protesters returned to the streets of the nation's capital despite heightened security measures across the city. Earlier, demonstrators met the president and first lady when they visited the St. Paul II National Shrine. Shortly afterward, he signed an executive order promoting international religious freedom.
It's a pretty consistent continuum for this president in standing up for religious rights.
It was the president's second visit to a religious site in as many days. Monday evening, peaceful protesters across from the White House in Lafayette Park were forcibly dispersed by federal police. Moments later, the president walked to the nearby damaged St. John's Church, where he held up a Bible. Church leaders were upset by the display.
To make a symbolic gesture, holding a Bible as if to spiritually condone a message and a posture that is antithetical to the teachings of Jesus.
White House sources tell CBS News the president's trip to the church was meant to be a show of strength. He's now threatening to use the U.S. military against U.S. citizens to end protests that in some cases have turned violent.
If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
John Keller live with us now. And John, law and order politics has been effective for candidates in the past. Certainly not the first time that we've heard President Trump use that term. Do you think it will work this time around?
Well, David, let's look at the history books. The classic example of effective law and order politics was Richard Nixon's successful 1968 run for president. But that came after 4 years of urban rioting, dozens dead, hundreds injured, thousands, tens of thousands arrested. And Nixon was not the incumbent in '68. When he tried to play the same card again 2 years later in the midterms, it failed. So the effectiveness of these political tactics depends on the level of voter fear. And while you could say Donald Trump's victory in 2016 was built on fear of illegal immigrants, of globalization, and so on, his effort to use the refugee caravans to stoke fear in the 2018 midterms, remember that? That was a notable failure. So it depends on the context. We'll see.
Yeah, you make a good point that it only works if people actually have those fears and it gets them to the ballot box. So we shall see. John Keller, thank you so much.